Well, what a powerful room this is. I can see the room is filled with voices that can change systems, shift mindsets, and spark changes. Today, we are not here to just share the findings. We are here to face the facts, learn, and most importantly, to respond. This Enough campaign is not just a title. It's a declaration. A declaration that we have had enough statistics that don't change, and of children who go unheard, and of empty stomachs in a country with abundant resources. This baseline assessment is more than data. It's the story of our children. What we choose to do after today will write the next chapter. So I invite the religious leaders, government leaders, academics, practitioners, and advocates to lean, listen, and reflect deeply about what will I do after what I hear today. So let's begin. First and foremost, let's rise on our feet for the national anthem. To inclusion. We believe no voice should left unheard, acknowledged. Now I would like to take a moment. Swami Gunadinananda Saraswati, Chinmaya Mission of Sri Lanka, Council Secretary, Serving Emmanuel Memorial Church, Manhattan, Jajapatero, Sri Abhinava Viharastanya, Ramakanayaka, co-founder Asuna Trust, media spokesman for Supreme Council of Sufi Prayer or personal reflection, each in your own way. Let's write.
Ministry of Finance, esteemed partners from Sri Lanka. We extend our heartfelt thanks to each of you for joining our collective journey to combat child hunger and malnutrition in Sri Lanka, functioning landscape. This study is not just a document, it's a reflection of voices from across 27 World Vision Lanka area programs spread across 14 districts in Sri Lanka. They are voices of parents, teachers, health workers, local leaders, and most importantly, the voices of children, of our children. It captures their living realities, grappling with food insecurity every day. It offers us the data, the insights, and most importantly, the moral imperative to act. As we launch this study, we are reminded of the urgency of the task before us. Despite our strides in improving health, Sri Lanka continues to face a critical and complex nutrition crisis to date. We are now battling what is known as a double burden of malnutrition. where undernutrition remains widespread in rural areas and where obesity rises in our urban areas. Distressingly, the indicators of child malnutrition says that 15 to 20% of our children suffer stunting and 15% are suffering wasting. These figures are not just statistics, they are faces of children who are not reaching their full potential, particularly in our most economically vulnerable and geographically isolated communities. The situation is further worsened by rising food prices, widening economic disparities, and climate-related disruptions. And all these contribute to increased food insecurity, placing immense stress on the most vulnerable, our children. Food insecurity in their homes forces our children into child labor, early marriage, diseases, and in most unfortunate circumstances, even death. In response to this, World Vision Lanka launched the ENOUGHEND campaign, a strategic and timely initiative to address child hunger and malnutrition. Aligned with Sustainable Development Goal number 2, this campaign is more than a program, it is a movement to build resilience in our children by influencing policies, enhancing services, and tackling the root causes of hunger and malnutrition. And while we have strong national nutrition frameworks in place, it is no secret that gaps still persist, from inconsistent implementation and weak monitoring to logistical challenges in school feeding programs. But we are not without solutions. We anticipate this baseline study to be the compass by which we will navigate the future of our campaign. It will allow us to measure impact, make strategic decisions, and move closer to a hunger-free Sri Lanka. On behalf of World Vision Lanka, I extend my deepest gratitude to Wayamba University and all who contributed for this important study, our government partners, community members, civil society leaders, children, and the many voices who helped us better understand the ground realities. Let us now move forward with greater purpose, unity, and urgency, because when it comes to our children, enough is enough. Thank you, and God bless each and every one of you.
Of the campaign.
A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. I'm very honored to present on the overview of the ENOUGHEND campaign. So we will look into what is all about the campaign, and also what are its goals and what is World Vision Lanka's strategy through this campaign. So what is this ENOUGHEND campaign is all about? It's a global campaign of World Vision, and it stands for a powerful movement for advocating for sustainable solutions and multi-sectoral collaboration and strengthen policies to ensure that every child has enough food to thrive. We believe that there is enough in this world, in this country, for every child, no matter where they live and what crises they face. To have the nourished food they need to thrive. It is also a moment of hope. In Sri Lanka, we focus through the campaign is malnutrition, micronutrient deficiencies, and food insecurity. So it is a collective effort to end child hunger and malnutrition. We believe that if we all got together, we have enough food, we have enough political will, we have enough people like you to end child hunger. So we have a strategy to run this campaign. The number one goal is to make the children visible, heard in hunger, nutrition and food security related policy at all levels. The second one is to ensure that every child receives right nutrition ethically, nutritionally, and also to build resilience. And also we have outcomes that we want to improve the visibility and understanding of the size and dynamic of malnutrition in Sri Lanka. And we want to ensure that more children are reached to get the nourished food for them to thrive. And increase access for the children and families for the quality, nutrition and food security. And also, we want to ensure evidence-based enough campaign. That is why we have conducted a baseline assessment to build the evidence for this campaign. We have a comprehensive strategy also. So what we want to do is to get the perspective of the children, families and communities. What do they want to say about their nutrition and security in their perspective? So we want to define it through the campaign. And also we are focusing on direct interventions that addresses the child nutrition and food security. And our main focus is also about policy and advocacy for the systemic changes that we want to make around nutrition and food security. And also we look for sustainable systems for long-term sustainability. So the campaign components. This campaign has been launched last year, March. So we are in action. Let me take you through what are the campaign actions currently we have. So immediate action would be the emergency nutrition. World Vision Sri Lanka focuses to ensure nutrition and emergency situations. And when it comes to short term, preschool feeding programs to donors, special nutrition programs, climate smart agriculture promotion and creative education tools to build the knowledge around nutrition and getting supporters for the campaign. And for medium term, policy dialogue with relevant ministries to ensure right investment for nutrition and food security, and also we are influencing the government in nutrition finance and partnering with SunPF, and also empowering the youth and children to continually advocate efforts. And also for long-term food systems transformation through local production. outcomes. So these are the expected outcomes through the campaign that Evolution Sri Lanka looking into. So direct impact for 55,000 children receiving nutrition meals, and we want to make system changes in 14 districts that we work, and also more than 100 policy implementations, ensuring the community reaches the correct and services from the government, and also we want to have a national network for enough to build young advocates. This opportunity is for us to engage, build network so that we can do more together to improve the impact. And we can collaborate through strengthening school programs, promoting healthy school canteens, promoting climate smart agriculture, and promoting nutrition sensitive gardening. And we can focus on behavior change nutritional programs, engaging in nutrition and agricultural advocacy. We hope to build collaborations to collaborate with initiatives like this. So where we stand today. So since we have completed 1 year after the launch of this campaign, Evolution Sri Lanka had made progress. So if you all see the presentation like slide, we have a lot more to go. With our resources, with our capacity, we actually move forward. But this slide insists the need for collaboration and support from all the partners and the government. Yeah, I'll talk about the baseline study. Why do we want to do a baseline study for a campaign? So this is our major deliverable from the campaign. We want this baseline study to be shared among the practitioners, advocates, and government officials. So who benefits from this study? Policymakers. Yes, evidence-based decision making can be done with this baseline study. For non-organizations, we can do nutrition and security and targeting business. We can understand community needs, and according to that, we can shape our businesses, and communities, of course, raise their voices to define their needs. So let's continue this conversation. Together we can ensure enough for everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Lavanya. Now, what this baseline study is trying to tell us, let's get to know about that from the research team from the Ministry of Sri Lanka. I would like to invite Professor Ren, the team leader, principal investigator, and also professor in nutrition at the Department of Nutrition and Dietetics, Faculty of Livestock, Fisheries and Nutrition. Joining him, Dr. Senal Veerasurya, co-investigator and senior lecturer at the Department of Agricultural Economics and Management, Faculty of Agriculture, University of Peradeniya. And we also have Dr. Tilanka Ranatunga, co-investigator and senior lecturer at the Department of Nutrition and Dietetics, Faculty of Livestock, Fisheries and Nutrition, via the University of Sri Lanka. At last, we have Dr. Tushanti Pereira, the co-investigator and the senior lecturer at the Faculty of Livestock, Fisheries and Nutrition, via the University of Sri Lanka. Over to you, team.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, also the reverend, the religious leaders. World Vision, thank you very much for organizing this event because most of the research done in various quarters in the country are not properly disseminated to the right people at the right time. So I think this is the best time to tell you about what we have found in this brief research. So the Biomedical was invited to do this baseline study. This is not a quantitative study, but it's a qualitative study with several focus group discussions and also some desk works as well. So I will elaborate a little on some of the very critical, very important findings of our study along with my other colleagues of the team as introduced by the World Vision. So baseline study, and we want to give you the key findings and also the recommendations. So I think everyone or most of you are well aware of the problems in this country in relation to nutrition. So I'm not going into the details, but you should know that we have double burden of malnutrition. A lot of children, 20% is stunted and 15% wasted within different age groups. And at the same time, another group of children are becoming obese or overweight and obese. Especially, we can see this problem in the urban areas coupled with non-communicable diseases such as diabetes. The children are also getting diabetes. And 25% of our adult population, if you take 4 people, 1 is diabetic. The stroke and the other cardiovascular disease and also cancer are the problems which are related to nutrition, related to what we eat. And also there are a lot of micronutrient deficiencies like iron and zinc, calcium, which are not very visible when you look at a person. You look the same, okay, but inside there can be the micronutrient deficiencies, vitamins and minerals. Food insecurity, the people don't feel like they are secured in food due to rising food prices. So that is what we hear, what we feel every day. And also there are economic disparities, limited access to nutritious food. And also there are certain groups of people who are vulnerable to this shock, price shock, economic shock, and there are geographically isolated populations like estate populations, which is about 5% of the Sri Lankan population. In addition to that, there are certain climate-related disruptions. Now today you see that unusual weather. This month, June, this is not the typical weather that we expect. So the climate-related disruptions can affect agriculture productivity and the food supply. That affects the nutrition of the country. In addition to that, there are certain policy gaps and the program gaps. So the changing governments alone will not make a difference, but there are certain necessary changes required in terms of and programs. Limited effectiveness of existing nutrition programs and the food security programs, and also there's a need for better coordination of stakeholders. We see that the lack of coordination between key ministries like limited coordination, I would say that education, agriculture, health should work together mainly along with other ministries. So this is not the health ministry's work. Nutrition is not the health ministry's work. They should lead, but others should support. So finally, the cultural and socio-economic factors affect the nutrition situation. There are traditional dietary habits, and we lack balance. Large plate of rice with little bit of vegetables does not provide us the required nutrients. Socio-economic inequalities also impact the quality and the variety of the food and the diet of the people, especially children. So finally, overall, the World Vision also felt, we all understood that there's a need for integrated strategies addressing both undernutrition and obesity while ensuring food security for all. So that's the theme. Subject of the baseline survey conducted by Viable University. We wanted to assess the country context on the child hunger, malnutrition and the food insecurity. So we did the scoping review, desk review, looking at the future report and many things published in the last 10 years especially. And also we established a baseline campaign indicators to set life cycle targets. So Vision needs data, so that's why they asked us to do this work. So we did the scoping review and also a qualitative study with the limited funding. And also we evaluated the policy environment on child hunger security. So we did the comprehensive policy review. And then we finally wanted to refine the World Vision Lanka or the World Enough campaign's theory of change, what they expect, and the framework. So that is our synthesis part. We gave certain recommendations to World Vision, so then they can take this forward with the stakeholders, donors who are attending today's forum. And finally, we wanted to lay the foundation for monitoring and evaluation campaign impact. Programs going on, but lack of monitoring and evaluation. So the next part of this session has been lined up with highlights of the scoping review. Dr. Tushanti will briefly give you an overview of the current malnutrition or nutrition situation in the country, very briefly. And Dr. Senal, my colleague, will tell you about the later the policy review and the child hunger, malnutrition and food insecurity in Sri Lanka. Dr. Tilank will tell about the findings of the qualitative study, and finally wind up with the recommendations. So that's the next 20 minutes also the program. What do you Tushanti?
Well, good evening to all of you. So as we start with a very broad introduction as to what we are here to do today. So my session or my part will be to sort of give an overall idea about the scoping review and the synthesis that is coming from the scoping review to understand what is the current situation in child malnutrition, child hunger, as well as the food insecurity in the country. So these numbers are statistics that we have identified through the national databases as well as the surveys that were conducted. So the next 5 minutes of time that is allotted to me, I will walk you through actually a few statistics to give you a broad overview as to where we are at. And we've been hearing about child malnutrition and all these statistics very often, like these are common headlines, and we are still so pondering the question, like, you know, why we are talking about these numbers still for the last few decades. I think we have been talking about these numbers. So if you take a look at these numbers, we can see that we still face, especially with respect to young children, the malnutrition rates are quite high, which is defined by number of children who are underweight, stunted, wasted, and at the same time, the challenge is that we have to deal with the dual burden of malnutrition, where a part of children are sort of suffering from food insecurity or hunger, not having enough food to eat, while the group is sort of simulated to being overweight or obese. So keeping that in mind, we are in a very a tricky situation in terms of handling all these issues related to malnutrition. And as Professor Renu correctly mentioned, not just the malnutrition, but also we are suffering from various micronutrient deficiencies, and also food insecurity is looming at large. So let's take a look at few of these statistics to give you a better picture as to what we have identified from reviewing a plethora of literature that is available with respect to our country. So I was talking to you about the malnutrition rates. So in the same time, we cannot forget the food insecurity. Now, coming off from various challenges, starting from the COVID pandemic to economic crisis to, and again, hitting with political and social turmoil that took place in our country for the last few years, it has been evident that many of the households or families have been pushed to suffer from at least slight or moderate food insecurity. And we have to assume that these families and households would probably carry at least one child. So that means not enough food consumed or not enough food being available to the child, pushing the child to food insecurity and hunger as well. So this is kind of looking back at the last 50 years, the child malnutrition rates. Now, if you put these together, you can see we have made remarkable progress. But if you just look at the last few years or the last few decades, we are still from stagnant numbers with respect to number of children underweight, stunted, or wasted. So this is, again, we have to ponder this question, like what exactly is happening with respect to our child population not being able to achieve the nutritional targets. So keeping that in mind, basically what we wanted to do through this scoping review is to find the gaps and to really understand what is fueling the child malnutrition, hunger, and food insecurity. So what we wanted to do, as endorsed by the World Vision Lanka, is to sort of review what is available with respect to Sri Lanka, with respect to, again, child nutrition. So we were basically looking at the dynamics between child malnutrition, and also to trying to understand the forces or the metrics of factors that are driving these, statistics or numbers with respect to children being malnourished. And finally, to sort of understand through the available literature what exactly is missing. So what is the story that different policies, programs, and interventions are telling for us, so that we can understand the challenges that we face, so that would help World Vision Lanka to move forward, sort of mitigating the barriers and sort of enabling different opportunities to move forward with their Enough campaign. So the first step that we did for the scoping review was to look back like 10 years and sort of let in all the statistics, reports that are available at local as well as international level with respect to child malnutrition. So we have been reviewed reports, abstracts, scientific publications, local international reports, and we were compiling that information as a sort of a summary, and then we wanted to tell our story as a narrative review. So again, these are a few numbers. Now I'm not going to sort of tell them out loud because we are in a sort of a limited time frame. But what I would like you to sort of focus is that, interestingly, if you look at our young children, especially the preschoolers, those who are less than 5 years old, you can see about of these children are malnourished, suffering from various conditions related to being underweight, stunted, or wasted. And interestingly, a slight increase in being overweight or obese is emerging among this age group as well. And if you look at our teenagers or adolescent population, again, interestingly, about 1/4 or more than 1/4 of this children's population is also having quite a bit of nutrition-related problems. happen. So you can see wasting is quite high among this group, and at the same time overweight and obesity is rising, which is kind of alarming situation that we pay attention to. These are the groups who would become young adults and then later on adults who would step into a world full of non-communicable diseases. So if they are starting from this level, so we have to understand that they are in a sort of a grave danger in terms of achieving better nutrition outcomes. And interestingly, all this can be tied towards having probably not been able to access a healthy diet, and also being food insecure throughout. So as I said in my speech earlier, with whatever happened throughout the past few years, we can see a large number of households or families were pushed to become food insecure, maybe slightly or at least moderately. But we can see the numbers coming from various reports that there are significant number of individuals suffering from hunger attached to not being able to be a food secure household. And these numbers are alarming. Again, looking at the sector-wise difference, you can see many underserved communities are coming from either estate or rural or urban poor, having not been able to access healthy or a healthy diet or a healthy meal. And as you can see, again, a few more findings just to sort of justify our the statistics or numbers, that if you look at the food security rates, that they have been always fluctuating, and a majority of population coming from either rural or estate were suffering from food insecurity. And we have to assume that these households or families, again catering to a young child or an adolescent, is obviously experiencing the same nutritional challenges. So from the scoping, what we were able to sort of summarize was that obviously malnutrition and insecurity is still looming at large, so which is a problem that we really need to tackle, and that is why ENOUGH is very serious about understanding the current situation. And also, when you look at the policy landscape as well as various types of programs, interventions that are being taking place, what we could isolate from the scoping review was that there's not much coherence between all these policies, programs, interventions that are happening, and not a rigorous monitoring and evaluation framework is there. So it's all kind of in a very incoherent situation. Probably that is why we are not being able to find solid solutions to address child hunger, malnutrition, and food insecurity. Now, the final slide that I'd like to pay attention is to the recommendations, again isolated through the scoping review. What we can see is we need better data, we need better surveillance systems, we need better statistics to make sure that we can make evidence-based conclusions or recommendations, and also the policy, bridging the policies and research together to make sure that we can come up with solid, concrete, again, evidence-based conclusions and recommendations with respect to in what ways we can address these issues are quite important. So I'm going to hand over the microphone now to our next speaker, who will talk extensively about the policy framework as well as how this can link to address and tackle the child hunger, malnutrition, and food insecurity. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. In the next section, what we tried to look at was this kind of, we kind of did a policy review pertaining to child hunger, malnourishment, and food insecurity in Sri Lanka. Overall, the objectives were to collect all the relevant policy documents and intervention programs, etc., related to child hunger, malnourishment, and food insecurity, conduct a review of the policy analysis conducted. Can be quantitative or qualitative into these areas. And then the third part was to conduct some key informal interviews with some key stakeholders, those who have been involved in policy formulation, policy analysis. So we spoke to people from the government, relevant institutes, NGOs who does work in this area. And finally, we came up with some policy, some trends and some areas. That is how I'm going to spend the next few minutes kind of talking about this. Okay, so the first part, the collection of documents, what we did was we collected, so I've given you some of the examples, we collected all what we could related to the areas of hunger, malnourishment and food insecurity. So for example, to name a few, there was the school canteen program, school health policy, national agricultural policy, ASFASMA program which is going on. And what we did was we kind of tabulated it into a common format where we looked at the objectives, and then we were very interested in the targeting aspects of these policies. What are the implemented strategies, if at all, if they exist, and how they link to the sustainable development goals, and are there any performance indicators? And then thereby kind of looking all of, after inspecting all of these things, we looked at the gaps. So that was the first part. The second part was to look at, kind of come up with a repository of the studies done related to policies or analyzing these policies. So we looked at ex ante and ex post policy analysis that have taken place in Sri Lanka related to these policies. And we kind of created a digital repository, and we tried to summarize the findings and identified some of the areas and gaps that were important. And the final part was we interviewed few key persons, and we had this questionnaire, and some relevant questions were asked, and again we qualitatively summarized the results. So these are the three parts. So based on all these three things, I will highlight some of the things that we found. First thing that I wanted to highlight was this targeting of these policies. Needless to say that they all targeted children, students, infants, and pregnant women. And what we found was that there were quite a lot of administrative hurdles in selecting the target groups. We talked about this, and there have been some criticisms about, are we really selecting those who require support, those who require financial or other means of support. So this has been a debated topic, and we found this to be wanting in this policy documents. And then the other thing that was kind of lacking or not clear in some instances was this operational guidelines were found lacking in terms of targeting, especially. And then there was limited or no dialogue on the stakeholder engagement in policy designs. There was limited awareness and advocacy. And post-monitoring and evaluation of these target groups either not conducted or the information was not available. This was something that we found out. The second one is the current status and the deficiencies of the policy implementation and its effectiveness. So we were looking at the implementation and whether it's effective or not. There was limited documentation in terms of implementation strategies and documentation on monitoring and evaluation. So both these aspects were limitedly reported, at least. And another thing that was not specifically highlighted was this aspect of adopting national policies, these blanket policies in local context, in certain geographies, taking into the aspects of certain cultural and other contexts. And then the next one was most of these policies lacked certain measurable indicators. Some of them had, but most of them lacked measurable indicators to track success. Are we on track? Are we keeping it according to the progress? Are we achieving them objectives? And the link to SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, were missing in certain situations. The third one was this policy analysis. Now that we've looked at the policy documents, what is the policy environment in terms of how we analyze them? Well, if I want to pose a question, does the policy analysis takes place within these institutions? When I say, what I mean is the institutions that came up with these policies or conducting work in this area. Well, the short answer is no. There was lack of policy research. Most of the studies that we found were mostly from the academia. There were some reports, but mostly it was found limited. And so this kind of highlighted this clear gap between policy and research, which needs to be bridged. And there were issues with the availability of data in some instances, and there were some issues which we found when we were doing the key informal interviews as to this training on policy analysis, like how to conduct. You can do it qualitatively, quantitatively, even within quantitative analysis. You could use a plethora of methodologies using statistics or otherwise to kind of tackle these issues. So this was found wanting. And the next 2 points, the data gaps and accessibility issues, most of these, to conduct policy analysis, we need good data. I'm an econometrician by training, and I salivate at the prospect of good quality data. To kind of move forward, we need really good data. And at the ministerial level, this is something that you could look upon, is to kind of have good quality data and make it available publicly, or at least make them available for those who want to do studies in this area. So and of course the data that is collected should be collected over time as well, so that we could have good panel data sets, so that we could use frontier methods in statistics and preferably econometrics. And then there was some, even if you look at the methods that were used to analyze these, most of the policies were analyzed ex post. That means after the policy is already conducted. There was a limited analysis on ex ante type analysis, where you could actually analyze the policy before implementation. This involves, you could conduct certain mathematical simulations, you could do linear programming, and again, this comes back to one point of having good data. But again, we need to do some training in these areas to kind of promote ex ante policy analysis, so that we could kind of investigate the impacts of policies before implementation. So that kind of ties upon to my final point of insufficient use of quantitative analytical tools. Kind of moving forward to wind off my section, one thing is we need improvements in targeting. And we should align the objectives of these policies with measurable actions. There's a clear need to bridge this gap between policy formulation and research. And then, in addition, we found that to improve the community nutrition, we look at the life cycles and kind of have a household focus on these aspects. And take the systems approach to look at this, to treat it as a system as opposed to an individual entity, and to have continuously monitor and evaluate these nutritional programs, and have some mechanism to adopt or implement these national policies in local context to make changes and act accordingly. And finally, to ensure active involvement of relevant stakeholders. Again, is a challenge. So these are the recommendations which we came across with the policy analysis. Okay, thank you.
I'm going to talk with you about our main findings of the qualitative study. So first I will show you what are objectives, aims, but I'm not going to read out this all. Basically it is to understand community and experts' opinion about diet, nutrition and food insecurity, including some of the gaps, challenges that they are facing. So for that we had focus group discussions and key informant interviews. For focus group discussions, we recruited both adolescents and adults. Adolescents, again, we recruited both females and males. Again, for adults, we had separate focus group discussions for men and women. And also we conducted some key informant interviews, and here you can see that what are the areas that we selected. We had approximately a similar number of focus group discussions for girls and boys, so totally 18 focus group discussions conducted. So actually we got help from university students, undergraduates involved in collecting data. We had focus group discussions for females and males. And after we gather all this information, we divided this information into different themes. So there were mainly 6 themes, and we used called NWorld software to analyze our data. So you can see that these are the main themes, mainly knowledge, attitude, practices related to food and nutrition, and household food security, influences of media, family, peer, and also health and nutrition outcomes, how extend that nutrition and health interrelate, and then food environment of those areas, and finally we ask their suggestions and recommendation that they have identified that for overcome their problems. So let's move into findings. First I will talk about the findings related to adolescents. There I have listed these findings according to the themes that we have identified. So first theme, knowledge, attitude, practices. So interestingly, we saw that most of adolescents had good knowledge about nutrition. They know what is balanced diet. They know what are the nutritious foods, what are non-nutritious foods. Especially they categorize fruits, vegetables, traditional foods as nutritious foods. At the same time, they believe that pizza, burgers, sweet, soft drinks like foods are unhealthy foods. But now you can see that have mentioned some of quotes mentioned by the adolescents. They mentioned that they know these food diets are bad, but they are very unhealthy foods. They know those are unhealthy, but those are very tasty. Therefore, they like to select it. And interestingly, they mentioned that they always try to go for homemade foods that come in from their home gardens, and natural fruits. On the other hand, we identified that although they have idea, they know about the nutrition, the use of the knowledge is low, and they don't know what is the required amount of each food items that they have to consume. That is the special point that we have identified under this theme. Regarding food security, even being adolescents, they have identified their poor income, high food prices were some of the barriers for selecting healthy food. Especially they mentioned that the traveling distance, traveling cost is also a problem to have a good healthy diet for them. And also they mentioned that even nutritious foods and fresh fruits and vegetables are not available in their area. So you can see that they have mentioned that they don't have enough money to buy fruits and vegetables. Even being adolescents, they have realized that And also they mentioned that high number of family members. They mentioned that our family have several members. Therefore, our parents may not be able to get enough foods for all. So that we realized that the high number of family members is also a barrier for them to select good nutrition and to have good food security. Regarding social media and peer influence, so here they mentioned that mostly they are getting nutrition information from their mother and grandparents. So grandparents is also highlighted by some of the adolescents. They told that grandparents teach us which foods and which ways that they have to consume these foods, and always they say that their mother teaches them what to consume, and accordingly she prepare the foods for their family. And also teachers, they realize that home science teacher, science teacher, health science teacher help them to find out good foods, and they teach nutritious diet, how to prepare nutritious diet. And also here you can see that how they have taken nutrition information from government and non-government organizations, even from religious leaders, they get some of the information. And interestingly, we saw that there is a peer in food selection, especially for both good side and bad side. So here you can see that one girl mentioned that I know that fruit drinks are healthy. I usually consume fruit drinks, but my friend always consumes soft drinks. Therefore, I also used to consume soft drinks. That is one of the bad sides. But on the other hand, one girl mentioned that usually I am not consuming green gram, nuts like things, but when my friends eat it, I also feel like eat it because they told me that those are healthy. So peer influence was some important factor that we have identified that affect for both good side and bad side. And media influence, they mentioned that actually most of adolescents did not mention anything about Facebook, but they mentioned that they have identified their preference for foods have been changed according to the some of the television advertisements that they have seen in the TV, especially for sweet food items, soft drinks, and some of the instant foods. They have increased the desire for these food items because of the television advertisement. It's something related to nutrition and health outcomes. So here we have asked that how extent that you know so in the community health and nutrition interrelations. So they have identified both short-term and long-term consequences. They mentioned that one thing is that healthy food options are limited, although they know these foods are good, but the availability of these foods items are limited, and lots of ready-to-eat food items are there in the environment which they like to select that. And home cooked meals, they have identified that they are healthy, and they always try to select homemade cooked food for them, and also food items coming from home garden. And also special thing that we have identified that most of girls and boys mention that they know that some of the foods are contaminated agrochemicals, therefore they try to avoid it, and especially even some of the food items that some preservatives are added, always they try to avoid it. And regarding food preparation, usually mother play the main role of selecting what to eat, and she is the one who prepare the foods. And they say, the adolescents mention that my mother think of our desire, our preference, and accordingly she prepare meals for that. If we don't like to eat anything, my mother will omit it and prepare our food items according to our preference. Then related to food environment, so here we can see that they have mentioned Yes, that's all about the findings of adolescents. So then I will talk about the main findings of adults, again according to the similar themes. There are differences in the themes of adolescents and adults. So first theme, knowledge and practices. So there also we have identified the similar things, but here they specifically mention about breastfeeding. They have realized the importance of breastfeeding, but all other informations are very similar as we gathered from adolescents. And also they mention that always they like to go for preservative-free foods. They know that those are the healthy foods. And also they mention that we know that these food items are good and this is the way that balance should be prepared. They face problem in preparing it because of the time constraint. Therefore, depending on the time availability, they had to do some of the changes. And also they mentioned that we have to think about our culture, religious beliefs, and our children's food preference when they prepare foods. And they have mentioned that these are the nutrition information, different ways of getting nutrition information. And specifically, we identified that they mentioned that watching Facebook helped them to learn more about nutrition. They learn a lot of food items, how to prepare nutritious foods from Facebook-like things. Then household food security, they also mention economic barriers, and especially they also mention the transport facilities are some of the barriers to have good foods. So food availability is depending on economic problems and poor market facilities. Perishability also they mention that fresh fruits and vegetables are not available in that area, so there are lots of barriers for food availability in the areas that they live. And regarding physical barriers, different geographical locations, again it associates with the poor transport facilities. And fluctuated income, that was one of the special points that we have identified from adults. There are assumptions that some people cannot work and they don't able to get income, especially associated with the climate, some of the economic problems that country face. And also regarding intra-household food distribution. So this point especially we identified among Tamil communities. They mentioned that women sacrifice their nutrition for their husband and children. They take little amount or less nutritious foods and they try to give more foods and the nutritious foods for children and the husband. And regarding coping strategies, it means what they do during food in time periods. They try to reduce the food intake, try to reduce the number of meals like things are done when they face food insecurity, and so go for some low cost food items. Regarding nutrition and health outcomes, again the similar things as mentioned by adolescents, but specifically they have mentioned some of long-term effect of poor nutrition, such as immunity, cognitive decline, some of non-communicable disease influence like things mentioned by adults. And this is one of the questions that we asked from adults. We didn't ask this from adolescents. We asked which kind of recommendations or the program suggestions that you have, programs and recommendations. So most of them mentioned that they need to have good nutrition education, especially for young mothers, and also some trainings, the education related to food preparations using some local food items. Also correct identification of vulnerable groups, self-employment for females, home gardening, some of the assistance for home gardening, improved resource management like things were mentioned by them, and also there were some policy recommendations also mentioned by adults, mainly some rationals for people, especially for children under 5, and expand programs like Aswesuma, food price control, a lack of local milk processing units, and provision of lands and seeds for agriculture, and some of the direct involvement of government in price control. So these are the findings of key informants. We recruited Ramiladaris, midwives, some village level leaders to get ideas from them. Regarding nutritional status, again they mentioned the same, and they realized that elderly people also as one of the vulnerable group, which we haven't identified from other groups. So regarding household food security, similar information, especially they mentioned about the low storage facilities. So these people mentioned that although they can buy lots of fruits and vegetables, although they have money, they can't bring it to their home because they don't have enough refrigerator facilities. So that point was especially identified through key informant reviews. And also they mentioned that due to economic crisis, lots of problems started, especially increasement of food prices and after COVID-19 even, and after that lots of problems related to food availability and it affect their food insecurity. And they especially mentioned that 14 rich foods are limited in their area, milk, meat, fish-like food items are limited, and also fresh fruits and vegetables are also limited. So scoping strategies, similar things mentioned as adults. Knowledge, attitude, practices, I mentioned it earlier, and some of the contextual environmental factors. There we try to understand what are the barriers that these people are faced to have nutritious diet. So here they have mentioned low wages, debts, and alcoholism is also a problem. Most of men are alcoholic and they not give money for their family, for their children, being of the family. And migration of parents for employment is also noted by this group. So the children under 5 are severely affected because of that problem. And poor market facilities, rising food prices are also affected, and government aid are also there, but there are some disparities and the disadvantages of these programs. And home gardening program is also going on with the area, but some of the problems are still facing, especially lack of inputs for agriculture and selling nutritious foods and get some non-nutritional food for the family, and animal threats. So threats from pigs also noted by some of the key informants. So from them also we asked similar question, which kind of suggestions program that you have. So they mentioned the nutrition education, they also mentioned the same, and correct beneficiary selection. So there are some government aid program, but correct need people are not targeted. Therefore they mentioned that correct targeting is important, and strengthening local food system, monitoring and evaluation of current programs, education on family planning, because it was also one of the important points that they have mentioned, which is not coming from adults. Education on family planning also mentioned by them, and also invent new nutritious foods are also one of the programs that they suggested. Regarding policy level, they mentioned that there should be some local production and market facilities, the policies related to that, and clean water access policies related to that, and the government aid should be targeted very well, and ensure food quality without having chemicals, and school curriculum. Changes in school curriculum also were suggested by this key informant interviews. So that's all about the findings, key findings of qualitative study. Now I'm going to hand over to Professor ENOUGHEND to talk about final recommendations.
Lot of information. I think you are now full of information, so I'm not going to talk about information, but the summary and what is the final story of all what we have done in this study. So we did scoping review and look at the nutritional state of the country, and we look at the policy document government, the policy implementation, and we talk with the policy implementers, policy makers, and also they also have some problems. So we identified them, reported, and then thirdly, we ask this the opinion of the people, the children especially. The World Vision wants children's voice. So we got their voice, captured their voice, and also their mothers, the gatekeepers of children, and also key informants. So that's what my colleagues told. Now, what we found was lack of comprehensive data. Without data, some ministries are working because the government is the main place that they are working, so they don't have data. That's another. They may not agree with me, but we don't know how much of protein, vitamins, minerals our people are consuming. Up to now, there is no national nutrition survey or the diet survey. Expensive surveys, but in other countries, every 5 years they look at what people are really eating. No data. Without data, we are recommending people eat this, that, and all. So we are academic researchers, so we have to tell the truth. So Senal mentioned about quality data. I don't think that all data gathered are quality. The surveys, the national surveys done by the Census and Statistics and also the MRI surveys, there are data gaps, but quality data is important to take decisions. Next, there are regional disparities in nutrition and food security. Food security insecurity is very high in the rural areas as well, not only in the state areas. So, compared to even in the urban areas, there are pockets, patches of people who are not food secure. So, when we are addressing these issues, we need to identify these vulnerable groups. Behavioral and cultural barriers to nutrition, of course, you need to change the mindset of the people, otherwise you can't address. Challenges in stakeholder coordination. So I am always criticizing, and as there is a National Nutrition Secretariat, which has not been active, and not coordinating everything. It was under the president, now it is under a different ministry, but still I can't see that they are coordinating the entire nutrition, health and the food security. Time to time, their focus is different. I have to tell this. Policy implementation gaps. So there are implementation gaps. Policies are there, programs are there, but there are problems in the implementation. So you know about the school meal program? Not. How can you say that at least one nutritious meal is given? How can you guarantee that a nutritious meal is given to the children? No guarantee. It depends on the prices of the food and so many other things. Community engagement. People are, their engagement in these programs are very, very minimum, but of course, the government officers, midwives and the PHIs, the doctors are working, but nutrition education or the nutrition awareness, there is a gap because the midwives are overburdened and the midwives have to do a lot of work, but the nutrition information, giving nutrition information to the general public is a problem, and it is not optimally done. And the use of technology and innovation, very traditional means of dissemination, talking to mothers in the antenatal clinic won't work anymore, but they do. The demonstrations, cooking demonstrations, there are good things as well, but we need to improve the things using technology and the innovation. And the resource constraints are of course there because That's why we need the funding. So the funding is very much required for the NGOs and for the government. So the donors should think about that. The necessary funding to be channeled to the right place at the with the right policies, and the need for capacity building. So the nutrition capacity building is a separate thing, and we need to build the capacities of the different stakeholders. So the recommendations finally. Quickly, I will go through this. Promote locally sourced nutritional programs and adopt digital innovations for education. We need to rethink about the nutrition education strategies. Develop a comprehensive nutrition surveillance system. Data. We need data. Strengthen the intersectoral collaboration. So at least strengthen the National Nutrition Secretariat and ask them to coordinate this work. Prioritize high burden regions like estate and rural areas. Of course, I know that the Ministry of Health is doing it. Implement behavioral change campaigns, address cultural and behavioral barriers. Still there are certain cultural and behavioral barriers. Improve accessibility of nutritious food. That's what the Department of Agriculture should do, and also the livestock, etc., fisheries. Monitoring and evaluation is important. We need to look at whether the things are happening and what's the impact of them. We have been giving reports for over decades. So have we got the right, the expected outcome? We have been giving the nutrition supplements to the pregnant mothers over the period of during their the pregnancy period of time. So still, mothers are anemic after giving the supplements. So why we have to find out those things? So they expand the social protection system measures. I would like to ask, Aswasuma is given. Have they, or the Aswasuma, that board, have they look at their nutritional status? Whether there's an improvement in their nutritional status after giving the Aswasuma? Or whether they really utilize the money for the benefit of the family and they are for the enhancement of the nutrition. So those are the questions that we need to address. Leverage the climate resilient the agriculture. So with the climate change, different kind of agriculture strategies are required. Strengthen the grassroots involvement. So that's why the role of World Vision is important. Other NGOs are important. And foster the private sector partnership. We should not think that the private sector is enemy and the food sector, food manufacturers are enemies, and but we need to get their support and tell them what kind of food that the people they should produce. So the product retailing kind of things are important. I'm not going into details. Integrate nutrition goals into broader policies. All policies must have the nutrition somewhere. It is expected. Internationally, it is expected. Right. So then finally, I must thank World Vision for giving us this opportunity to look at this nutrition sector deeply. Although this data is not quantitative, qualitative data, there was a lot of things. So from the Mumbai University, Department of Nutrition and Dietetics, we would like to thank World Vision and others who supported in carrying out this study, and my team members, and also the research assistants, the postgraduate students, and also the undergraduate students that supported this study. Thank you very much. I hope that the message, we try to give you the clear message, and the next, taking this forward and what should be done is up to the World Vision and the other stakeholders representing the government, UN organizations and others, donors. They should work together and decide what should be done. Thank you very much.
community disaster preparedness in Sri Lanka. And under this project, a seeds system security assessment government, head of the Department of Crop Science, University of Peradeniya, and his team. The senior lecturer at the Department of Agricultural Economics and Management.
Well, hello again. But now I'm going to talk about something what we did, because this acts as kind of a precursor or a prequel to food security. We need seeds to grow plants. So with that intention, with support of the World Vision, a team of scientists representing the University of Peradeniya as well as the Department of Agriculture conducted this detailed study where we looked at the seed system security. We didn't look at the seed security, we looked at the seed system security. So let me kind of give you a brief overview as part of the team representing the team. Let me give you an overview of what we found. All right, so again, we are looking at this as a system, and we try to look at these interrelated subcomponents or subsystems in this system, which we call the seed system. And we found that there are 4 main sections. That includes seeds production, seed distribution, seed governance, and seed utilization. And these all are linked. If I want to give you a little clearer picture, okay, this is a more comprehensive diagram of the seed system. So we start with, so we have seeds which we use for planting, and you can cultivate, harvest, you can store it, or you can consume it. So the plants go into the gene bank, and you can conduct breeding programs, and that produces seeds, and that goes into the market, right? And you can see the seeds can be your own stock, it can be exchanged, they can be sold at the local market on some other market chains, like you can import them. And then we have these seeds coming in through commercial channels, the government, through relief programs, and they go back into the field. So this one is a snapshot of what we call the seed system, and we built our study based on this framework, that we looked at these various components. So keep that in mind, what we did was we kind of came up with why should we do this. One thing was, there are natural disasters and emergencies. It's more frequented than in the past, so we have to have a plan which directly links towards the food security, the food supply in the country. And then there is climate change adaptations. Climate change is no longer a figment in our imagination. It's something that rational people believe in, and science has proved. So that is something that we need to concern ourselves, and it directly affects food security and livelihoods. And there are the market dynamics. There are a lot of policies that surround these seed systems. And then we have the community resilience. So all this kind of provides a rationale for assessing this seed system security. And I have to say that this was done for the first time in Sri Lanka, and under the World Vision guidance, this was done for the very first time. There was no previous assessment of such kind conducted in Sri Lanka. So we selected several locations which encompassed different climatic zones and different systems, and we collected data about 1,200 to 1,300 farms, and we only looked at those who are using seeds. So we did not look at farmers who are cultivating perennial crops or using other planting materials. We were specifically focused on seeds. And these types of data we collected and we did a desk review. There was some opinion surveys. We did a very big structured questionnaire, which we did it among, as I said, more than 1,000 farmers. And there were some observational visits and several focus group discussions in all of those locations that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so given the time, I'm not going to present any results per se, but what I'm going to do is we came up with 8 recommendations. So I will kind of very briefly talk about what these recommendations are. And we submitted a very deep report, about 250 pages document to World Vision. So I believe in due time that will be made available for anyone who is interested in more detail, the analysis that we took and the data and the results. So the number one is this promoting private sector participation, encourage seed companies. This is something that we found out through our survey and other data collection. This plays a very pivotal role in the seed industry. So there are incentives for investment. There can be public-private partnerships. And then the market, again, there was some issues with the market, especially concerning the seeds. So to develop a robust market for seeds, essential for the growth of the seed sector. So good information system, promoting enterprises, especially seed enterprises, were the recommendations that we made. Recommendation 2 is having a robust seed quality control system. So we found quite a lot of heterogeneity when it comes to the quality of seed. Some farmers would complain saying that, okay, I buy the same variety this season, I buy the same variety from the same producer next week, and I get a low yield. There were a lot of complaints, people, and then they, people are complaining about, or farmers are complaining about the seeds. There was this huge variation in the yields that you get. Of course, seeds quality is not the only component that affects yield. There are other components, as we all know, but this was something that we found lacking. So this is one thing that we recommended, to have a good regulatory framework, to have a robust seed quality control system. So there should be a framework, certification process, testing and monitoring, training and capacity building, and of course enforcement and penalties and public awareness. So third one is to ensure sustainability and resilience. So one of the things, as I said, with the onset of climate change, people are kind of starting to talk about climate smart agriculture. So this is something that we recommended as well, based on our findings, is to adopt climate smart agriculture practices, to use resilient seed varieties, to use sustainable farming practices, and should have some financial support mechanisms, credit facilities, insurance schemes, etc. And the fourth one. So the fourth one was something that was interesting, which we kind of recommended, that is to come up with what we call community-based seed systems, CBSS, to empower local seed systems, to kind of have local communities, community-based systems for ensuring the security, to promote local varieties, to have localized seed production, to make it easy for farmers to access quality seeds at a reasonable price. And of course, we propose this has to be integrated with the formal sector. Now we know that the government or the Department of Agriculture plays a pivotal role in seed varietal development and seed production, and other institutions also take part in this. So it has to, this community-based seed systems has to integrate well with the formal sectors. for example, the government. And there should be relevant policy support for these to sustain in the long run. And the other one was, again, kind of relates to the second point of having a good seed quality control system, is to have a policy and regulatory framework. That's something that we found lacking to enhance, to have robust policy support. There's a need of robust policy framework that supports both formal and informal seed systems, to review and update the seed policies, have harmonized standards, which was not the case, and then to have a more stronger regulatory mechanism to have effective seed certification process and to implement law enforcement whenever necessary. Although I said I'm not going to present any results, just to show you, this is a snapshot of some of the main seed producers in Sri Lanka. So if you look at the columns from 1 to 13, we've taken out the names, of course, but they are the main major seed producers, private seed producers in Sri Lanka. All right, and we looked at what they include in their labels. Now, we know when you are producing seeds, we need to have information about the purity, germination percentage, expiry date, and all this information. This is information, and we looked at what are the things that these seed producers put in their labels, and we found quite a lot of discrepancies. Sometimes they would not put the relevant information, and they would sometimes relabel it. If, for example, if the expiry is gone, relabel it. So there are some problems like that, and we found there were quite a lot of irregularities happening. So that kind of bolsters my statement previously that we need a good regulatory policy framework. So and kind of moving forward, we kind of recommended infrastructure development, seed production and processing, and storage and distribution to have strategic seed reserves. We were looking at it for our disaster preparedness. So in case of disasters, in case of adverse conditions, emergencies, have strategic seed reserves and distribution networks in place. And the second one is monitoring and evaluation to regularly assess the seed sector. What we did was a security assessment, so maybe we could conduct it on a regular basis so as to get an idea and to do an impact evaluation, have feedback mechanisms, to have farmer feedback systems, to record information, because farmers at the end are doing this, so the input becomes vital, and have more stakeholder engagement. And the final thing we proposed was to come up with this capacity building and training. Have training programs. What we found was most of the farmers have not been trained about the seeds. Most of them kind of based their choice of purchase of seeds based on their experience, based on positive word of mouth, in certain instances based on the government officials, their neighbors, their friends, etc. So it was very informal the way they got the information, and most of them, almost all the farmers, they did not have regarding how to select quality seeds, or in other cases for those who are interested. For example, we were proposing a community-based seed system. So that means in each community there should be seed producers, and they produce what the farmers want, right? So that needs training. So that is an area that was highlighted in this study, and we found that the government could do a much larger role, especially the related ministries in this area. So extension services, research and development, which is already happening, but we could kind of more streamline it and make it more efficient. All right, so in a nutshell, so we kind of broke it down into short term, medium term, and long term. So in short term, one thing we proposed recommendation 4 and recommendation 8 as what we could do very quickly. and all 8 in the medium term, and long term maybe we have recommended 5 of our recommendations to be in the long term. Right. Yes. Okay. So that was in a nutshell the recommendations of the study. And as I said, we have submitted a very detailed report. So those who are interested may be able to look at it in the future, and we could continue this dialogue. Thank you.
Now you all have been listening from the beginning of this event. Now it's time for your, now this space is open for discussion and your insights. To moderate this session, I would like to invite Dr. Tushanti Pereira, the Senior Lecturer of the Department of Nutrition and Dietetics, Royal University of Sri Lanka. Over to you, Dr. Tushanti.
Thank you, Shari. Again, introducing myself, I'm Tushanti Pereira, and I'm a Senior Lecturer attached to the Department of Nutrition and Dietetics, representing the Royal University of Sri Lanka team who are involved in sort of data gathering and providing recommendations for the World Vision as in a campaign. So I will be sort of moderating this session on behalf of your host today, World Vision Lanka. So we have about 30 minutes time. Since we are in a bit of a time crunch, I have to ask the audience, when you are sharing your insights, thoughts, experiences, stories, please limit your responses and make sure that you provide us with succinct responses. And also, this is happening as an open forum discussion, so that means I am not posing any specific questions to specific delegates, but instead, with the help of the World Vision Lanka, we have identified delegates representing different ministries, international, national, non-government organizations, as well as donors, faith leaders that would help us sort of identify important insights that would help World Vision Lanka to continue on their efforts on building the Enough campaign. Now there will be a couple of microphones passed to each table. So if you would like to take part in the discussion, please let us know. Joe will be handling the microphones. And one other before we start with the discussion. So kindly, if you would like to participate in the discussion, please state your name, your affiliation, and your role in the organization or institution or the ministry that you are representing. So that way it would be easy for us to sort of understand where these viewpoints and thoughts are coming from. So as I said, I will be sort of breaking this down, this session, to 5 broad areas of discussion points, again, that are sort of specifically directed towards Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Welfare Benefits Board, and various local and international NGO partners who are with us here today, and our gracious donors as well as faith leaders, if they would like to sort of conclude this discussion. So now we spent quite a bit of time during this program going through what we have gathered through the research that we did as the baseline study, helping the World Vision Lanka's Enough campaign. So we identified through the baseline study, emphasizing that there is a very important critical need for tailored interventions that must be targeted to address the unique challenges faced by especially the marginalized and vulnerable communities. So my first broad discussion point or question is directed towards the Ministry of Health. I think there are delegates in the ministry as well as the Family Health Bureau and the Health Promotion Bureau. So what I would like to sort of pose to the Ministry of Health is that we understand that there are already ongoing research that is happening focusing on family health, nutrition communication, as well as health promotion and behavior change. So these strategies are aimed at improving improving better diets and nutrition. So according to the Ministry of Health, how these strategies can be better tailor-made to address marginalized and vulnerable households or cohorts or communities as we identified through the baseline study. So we would pass the mic, and if there are any delegates who would like to volunteer and give us a few insights or to share their ideas or viewpoints, I think our host World Vision Lanka would immensely benefit from your recommendations or what you have to share with us. So this is directed to the Ministry of Health or any delegates from the Health Promotion Bureau or Family Health Bureau. So
research and findings. Let me start by saying what Renuka mentioned about exposure. So there's some activities going on to limit the exposure distribution among the pregnant mothers who are already overweight. And it has been, I'm sure my family colleague will add more to that. Over the years, for the children, it was definitely for the children who are faltering or at the risk of faltering, and now it's being implemented even to the pregnant mothers. This is a way of identifying who needs intervention, not in the marginalized or really targeted intervention, and along with that, I pointed out that the Presidential Secretariat was involved, and nutrition being a really multifaceted, multidisciplinary activity, I also strongly believe and supportive that there should be a top-level organization taking everybody on board. I believe I give you some insight to your question, and if my family health bureau colleague also can give some input, that will be great. Thank you.
all right, so moving to the Dr. Batuan Kudala for sharing his insights promptly. I'm sure these insights will be identified the role of multi-sectoral approaches in combating what sort of challenges in implementing the school meal program. How can these be resolved through interministerial or through various other collaborations? So this is about the school meal program. Program effectively and how we can pool the resources to sort of combat these barriers.
So first of all, thank to the organizers who's invited insights of this group. School meal program, everything. For this year is 32 billion rupees. 606 millions government. So challenge. So we are catering 1 to 5 grade students. We are treating equally because we are catering 1 to 5. So that's one challenge. Then when we talk about with the treasuries and the policymakers, they are saying that we don't have the lack of finance. So that's the one constraint. And other thing is what proper area, Talbakali and Medallia, and those areas we have to find what best and suitable meal suppliers. Evaluate the PHI, then the supplier, even they willing to provide the foods, they may disqualify because of that monitoring system. I'm not saying it should be there, but they are not having a capacity to do that. So therefore, students in the state area, I mean the upcountry, maybe in the Subrahmo province, because of that, they have to find the proper. The purpose is that if we can go for a common kitchen concept or the centralized with the good, following the good hygienic condition and distribute the food for the schools, that can be. So there are other challenges. And also the so I think to come to the mission of education and further, then we can align those 5 Thank you for giving this.
Would you like to take part in the discussion? So as we understand, no good deed is with its own challenge. I'm sure with these challenges and barriers shared with I guess with all these different institutions, partners, donors, I would like to forward with the next discussion point directed to its board. I think a couple of times the social protection and the importance of social protection and assessment program was brought forth with our findings. So ENOUGH has highlighted specific customer program addressing the nutritional needs of children in low-income families or underserved communities. We would like to know whether any considerations have been made for monitoring the nutritional outcomes of these beneficiary recipients, specifically who are receiving these social safety networks. So I pose this question to any delegates from the Welfare Benefits Board. Insights.
Crisis to
crisis involving and World Bank and the agencies suggested to have a proper database in the selection. Government decided to take the 2 million families. So they collect the data through the electronic. To identify this multi-deployed score. So based on that, poor, vulnerable and transient group was identified. Initially government decided to give the severely poor and poor. Later covered this COVID. They want to cover the temporarily to the vulnerable and transient. Initially it was planned to give only 6. So, but due to the several challenges, it was expanded. Finally, this transient group stopped last April. Now we are paying around 1.7 million for category. The second round also 100,000 applications enumerated. We are expecting based on the selection process from next month, maybe another. Purpose they are saying. Whether this money spent really for the essence or they spending for some luxury or some time they are. So whenever they receive the money, sometimes it is very difficult to control. So, national level, you know very well divisional secretary 200 to 300 field level officers. So field level officers. So they have to and CKD, kidney disease. That also now paid by the Welfare Benefit Board. Currently paying through the divisional secretaries, but we are make a selection process or the through the service. Why? This 300 elders why low income category. Now we have decided until other elders But children, even the elders we are paying, but children maybe our ultimate result to empower these people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. As we all are challenges and barriers, and not one institution or an organization can handle nutrition, diets, or health, because these are multifaceted and they roots from various areas that need attention. So my next question is, the discussion point is, I would like to sort of ask this from local and international non-government organizations who have been partnered with World Vision for their, I'm sure, for their other programs as well. So the ENOUGHEND study, we were able to highlight the importance of addressing grassroots barriers and leveraging successful models to combat child hunger, malnutrition, and food insecurity. Now, I would like to ask from various delegates who are present here, representing local or international organizations, based on your field experience, what are the key barriers, challenges that you see preventing effective implementation of hunger alleviation or nutrition and food insecurity programs at the grassroots level? Are there any successful models or pilot initiatives that you would like to help share your experience for the World Vision Lanka to replicate and make sure that the campaign reach enough children so that they would not go to bed hungry, or they would face malnutrition or food insecurity? So this question is for our local and international government organizations. Kindly let us know if you would like to take part in the discussion and share your insights. Are there any delegates from any local or international non-government organizations who would like to share their experience on how to handle certain barriers and challenges that could help them move from the ground? Yes, sir.
The child, food products, especially home, especially behavior, also 2-3 months the subject and new minister, not the president secretary. That's all my point.
I would like to are there any specific agricultural policies or programs currently taking place to enhance food accessibility and affordability for vulnerable families to battle the food insecurity in our baseline findings? Do we have anyone representing the Ministry of Agriculture or any related affiliate?
We are a non-profit organization dedicated primarily towards climate change solutions. We are working together with the Ministry of Agriculture on several programs, and one program specifically with World Vision Sri Lanka, community development model, which is essentially a program to develop 10,000 in Sri Lanka over the next 7 to 10 years. Through a novel approach of developing successful implementation methodologies, documenting them, training teaching a man to fish as opposed to training a man to fish. So in terms of child nutrition, significantly as we progress. So therefore the solutions we must develop have to become forward thinking, have to be climate resilient solutions, has to be from the level upwards. So the Ministry of Agriculture as well as the Power Foundation and empowering communities at the grassroots level, not only to increase the prevalence of the nutritional curves, so that thereby you are creating more and helping them transition towards more sustainable practices and environmental resilience.
Thank you very much. This we will be all the delegates who shared their voices with us to sort of and food insecurity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dushanti. Now we are moving on to a significant moment in today's event, handing over of the policy recommendation and call to action. So I would call Ms. Buddhini Akkorala, Manager, Advocacy and External Engagement, Mr. Uday Kumar Fernando, Technical Advisor. So the booklets will be received by Dr. Ranjit Bhagwantudava, the Director of Health Promotion Bureau. Health and Nutrition, Ministry of Education. Publication of the Enough Baseline Study. To present this, I would like to invite Mr. Johan Rivera, the National Campaign Coordinator, ENOUGHEND.
Proudly unveil the digital launch conducted in collaboration with the Department of Nutrition, Dietetics. This isn't just the start of innovation of carries the voices of children, youth, community leaders and experts who helped us understand the deep, often hidden reality of child and the opportunity. It brings us evidence, insights, and but more importantly, should go hungry, this report is for you. I warmly invite you to visit the website, publication, use it, let it inform your decisions, challenge your thinking, but thrives. A future where every child has enough. Thank you.
Mr. Johan, to formally conclude today's proceedings, I now invite Mr. Sharon Clifford Pereira, of Field Operations.
Our valued partner, colleagues from World Vision Lanka. A very warm thank you to each and every one of you for being part of this meaningful event today. We are here not just to share research findings, but to recommit ourselves to a future where no child in Sri Lanka suffers from hunger, malnutrition or food insecurity. The ENOUGH campaign was born out of this conviction that every child deserves enough. To try. Today's dissemination event is the result of collaboration, expertise and deep compassion. A special note of appreciation goes to the Department of Nutrition via to Professor Renuka Silva, Dr. Tushanti Pereira, Dr. Tilanka Ratnatunga and Dr. Senal Vyasurya and your wider research team. Thank you for your academic leadership, your rigor, and your tireless efforts in bringing this baseline study to life. We also extend our heartfelt thank you to Dr. Sena for your insightful on the system security assessment. Your contribution added an important layer to our understanding of agricultural resilience and food systems in Sri Lanka. To all government institutions represented here today, thank you for your continued engagement. Your partnership is essential to turning data into decisions and evidences into policy. To our respected religious leaders, thank you for gracing this space with your presence. Your voices remind us of our shared duty to care for the most vulnerable among us. To our partners, organizations, to local institutions, and donors, your collaboration strengthens this campaign and ensures that it is grounded in both community realities and national priorities. To the media, thank you for amplifying this message. Your work helps raise public awareness and drive accountability. And to the entire World Vision Lanka team, thank you for your passion, your persistence, and your unwavering commitment to children's well-being. As we close this event, let us carry forward a sense of urgency and shared purpose. The findings we have discussed today are just statistics, they are call to action. A call to act swiftly, collectively, and courageously to ensure that every child in Sri Lanka has enough. Thank you once again for joining us, and we look forward to working alongside each of you in the journey ahead. Thank you so much.
We have witnessed a powerful unwrapping of truth through research, reflection, and through the voices of those who matter the most. This is not just a presentation, and this is not the end, this is the beginning of a shared responsibility. And let's remember, we need action someday, but for now, for making time and being here with us today to say enough is enough. Now you can enjoy the refreshments which is served outside, just outside the conference hall. And I also want to